Hey guys, welcome to episode 3 of the Bonesaw Podcast. We've got a really cool show lined up for you. We have part 2 of the interview with Christopher Atomic Thrasher from Texas thrash metal band Insinnerator. We talk about a lot of really cool stuff here. We got thrash metal, we've got the music industry side of things that we talk about. We also get into Zelda a lot, like Majora's Mask, touching on Twilight Princess, and of course Ocarina of Time. So there's a lot of cool shit going on here. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. Of course, at the end, we're going to be playing Insinnerator music because why wouldn't we feature Insinnerator and not play their music? I've been reading Tony Iommi's book, Iron Man. It's fucking incredible. Chapters are short and sweet, cut to the story, no more fat, just meat and potatoes. Awesome pictures in there, like in 1985-86 era. Brian May, Tony Iommi, Eddie Van Halen, all lined up in a row. That's awesome. There's also another great picture that I like in there of Tony Iommi and his whole crew of who's at his first wedding, where Led Zeppelin drummer John Bonham was his best man. I did not know that. That picture's incredible. Also, Chris Jericho's book, Best in the World, at What I Had No Idea, was a great read. I really enjoyed it. I thought that Undisputed was better. But, hey, not going to hold it against him. Really cool book. You should check it out. Confederacy of Dunces, I finished. One of the funniest damn things I ever read in my life. They need to make a movie of this thing. So, here's the podcast.
Bonesaw Podcast! Bonesaw Podcast! Bonesaw Podcast! Bonesaw!
Well, let me ask you this. So working at a place like Earache, and I mean, you don't have to answer if this would hurt you, in any way, shape, or form, in any future that you want to have working at a record label. If you don't want to answer, that's fine. How much would a record label help, like a new thrash band in this day and age? Like, obviously, you got bands like Lich King that clearly they don't need a label. I think they're working with someone out of, like, Europe, maybe for just distribution.
Yeah,
but
it is just distribution.
Yeah, they've got, it's Lich King. They have a good following that they built themselves. Smart marketing, great music, great people. But, like, for a band like us, like a B, C level type thrash band in 2014, how much would a record label help us? And how much would they maybe, rob us, for lack of a better term?
Honestly, it really depends on what the hell they actually want to push. If the current isn't going for thrash metal, they're not even going to look at you. And that's just kind of the way that it is. Whatever's hot now is hot now. Whatever isn't hot anymore, they're just going to get completely ignored. I kind of feel like Diamond Plate kind of got, like, put in, like, an awkward time. I mean, I guess because they were so young that they couldn't really get them to sign anything until they were 18, but they wanted to sign them when they were, like, 15, 16. But they were just too young. But I feel like Diamond Plate, had they have been a little older at the time, they would have been thriving a lot more.
I think so too, and that's not to say Conrad's a nice guy with all the interactions I've had with him. They've always been good to me.
They've always been nice guys.
But I felt like it was a dangerous water to walk on because you saw them as young kids, and you're like, damn, look at these, and you always say, look at these kids playing thrash, and they're going to grow up, and that cutesy factor, for lack of a better term, no disrespect to them, would wear off at a certain point. And that's another band, man, that just kind of sounds tired. Like, their new record wasn't bad. It was a lot better than Generation Y, but that's just another band I think that needs to reevaluate, what they want to do musically. Because Conrad's a great musician, so I think they can make a really special thrash record if that's what they really want to do.
I just think that they were a victim of circumstance. I mean, all the stuff that happened to John, I mean, and then him just deciding to leave. I mean, I feel like that kind of like broke the momentum. Kind of like all the shit that happened with Bonded by Blood. I mean, that was another band that could have been doing so much more if they didn't just have a revolving door every album. Like,
yeah, man.
Where it wasn't like the Warbringer thing. Like Warbringer, they had a revolving door too. I mean, I think they've had. Yep, I think Carlos is the only drummer that's ever been on more than one album for them. But I think that where Warbringer had the backing of a larger label and they were also, they were also like the golden pony of that label. I feel like what happened with Bonded by Blood was there were too many bands at the time that their place there, if they didn't hold on to it, then it was just going to go to somebody else. And I feel like that's what happened with them too. They took like 2 years off, right? They took like a year or two off, and people just kept leaving.
Yeah, it was Aladdin and then Alex and Ruben, and that classic lineup of Bonded by Blood, man, was incredible. And this new lineup, and even the one they had on, which I think was similar to the first album, except they had
The Aftermath.
Jesse on bass.
Jesse's pretty good. And Juan actually stopped playing live with them.
He doesn't play live with them?
No, he stopped touring with them. Like, he'll only play like locally, and he wanted to just kind of record with them, but I don't even know what they're doing anymore.
I know, actually, Ben and Robert playing a black metal band, The Antichrist, and they're in Austin right now, and Ben texts me, and Morrow, the Mutants of War and the new Bonded by Blood singer is actually there right now, and it's like, what are you doing in Austin when your guys are back in LA? So I don't know if he even moved to Austin or something. I don't know. Is Bonded by Blood really a thing right now? And I mean that with all due respect. I don't know.
I don't know either. The last time that I saw him was last year around this time. He was Warbringer's merch guy for the Overkill tour.
Okay.
So I don't really know. I don't really know what Bonded by Blood's doing, if they're doing anything at all. I mean, I kind of feel like they'll eventually do like a reunion, but it's probably going to be after their contract is up or whatever it is. I mean, I really would like to see Evil come back to the States again. I really want to see Gamma Bomb again for sure, because they were fucking so good. I haven't checked out their new album though, but all those earache bands, it's just been kind of wacky. I mean, this year kind of fucked everything up for earache because they got acquired by Century Media and they did like a merger, and then like 6 months later, earache is suing Century Media for for whatever it is that they're suing them for. I think like Century Media didn't really hold their end of the bargain, and they just really wanted to just snake a bunch of bands from them. I don't really know what happened, but I know earache just kind of got like, I know they got like really beat up this year. So I don't know what's going on with their bands.
Did they drop a lot of bands from the roster because of the merger?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think Century Media had the majority of the control on who stayed. And like Vector's just been playing locally. They're working on their album.
Those guys are one incredible band. Vector.
Every time they kill them. They're so good.
They took us on our first mini tour.
Really?
And I'll always be indebted to them for that.
How was that?
That was very eye-opening on how we needed to conduct ourselves as musicians to be successful. And I can't thank them enough for giving us that opportunity and becoming our friends. And they didn't have to let us do that, and they did. And it was awesome, man. Because watching those guys perform every night for 4 or 5 nights was or isolation, and it was still just mesmerizing. Man, those guys, that's another band where the four guys have great chemistry on and off stage, and it just makes for better music.
It was fun. It was also kind of eye-opening, because you think that everything works a certain way, and you think that you think that there's a certain way to, like, break in as a musician, and then you get there and you find out that it's not at all what you expected. I mean, I guess it really works out for some musicians, or at least it did at some point in time, but I mean, now it's hard to really do anything. I mean, even, like, a lot of musicians just find that it's easier to be independent. I mean, I know I would rather work at my own pace. Another one of those bands are Rumpelstiltskin Grinder, where they just release records and they only play, like, local shows. They don't, because touring is just so expensive, and they don't have, like, a major label to back them or anything. I mean, I think they're on Relapse, right? Are they on Relapse?
That seems like, I don't know if they're on Relapse, but Relapse seems like one of the labels that if you were to get signed, they always seem to take care of their bands. So I guess is what I'm trying to say. Isn't that, is Xmortus on Relapse now?
I think they're on Nuclear Blast, but I'm probably wrong. I don't really even know. I hate to say it like this, but it seems like there's a pecking order.
What do you mean?
Your band A, there's bands A through E, and based on revenue, let's say, or how recent the acquisition was, combined with revenue, which labels would take care of a band, or, I mean, I guess it really depends on how much they've invested in you, that they want to continue investing in you.
Yeah. Yeah, because I could see, say Lich King and Evanescence were signed to the same level, the same label, like,
so Roadrunner.
Who's clearly the better musician? Lich King. Who would they push more? Evanescence, because they have some female singer, or they're on pop radio.
Yeah, kind of like,
that's just gonna make them the money.
It's basically Roadrunner at that point, where you have Nickelback and Machine Head on the same label, and it's like, how did this ever happen?
I know. Yeah, like that. I look at that label and I just laugh, because Machine Head just in and of itself just makes me laugh. Because, like, man, these two dudes were in violence, kicking the shit out of music, and now we have this. Let freedom ring with the shotgun blast. Oh, Jesus Christ, man, dude. I remember when I was like 17, I was like, man, I want to get signed and do all this, and now it's like, dude, I hope I never get signed. I can stay independent. But yeah, a big thing is, working at your own pace, because I can't rush what we write, man. It's just, it wouldn't be Insinnerator if we rushed it. We took years to write. Stalagmite, we took our time with Hypothermia, and now the next one. We're just going to continue taking our time, but it's going to be out 2015.
Nice.
But, I mean, we've got quite a bit done for it, so we're well on our way for it. So that's all we can say. 2015 is good.
How do you write your songs?
What's that?
How do you guys go about writing your material?
Oh, man, usually, like, one of us will come up with the opening stuff, and we'll just work until we hit a roadblock, or we know where it wants to go, but we don't want to write it. We want to get someone else's feel on it. And we use Guitar Pro. We all have it. So we'll just email it to whoever, either as a group and just say, hey, why don't you guys work on this? Just let everyone know. Or, I'll send it specifically to Juan or whatever and tell him, hey, work on this until you hit a roadblock. Then send it back to me, and when he sends it back to me, I'll send it to Ben. He'll send it back to me. When he hits a roadblock, send it to Robert. And then that's usually just how it comes about, because that's what's made our music is not really just one person writing it. It's always been a group effort, which is what I wanted, because their input is group effort, and that's also why it takes time, because I'm not going to rush them as they're trying to come up with their ideas, and they respectfully don't rush me as I try to come up with mine, and then you just write lyrics about Zelda, and boom, you have an album.
Wow. So how much of it is on? So how much of the album is about Zelda? How much of all the Insinnerator material is really about Zelda?
Just one. Evil Spirit from Beyond, which
Okay.
Flag
Yeah,
by Lights, is the
that
only
one I knew.
actual one.
Yeah, that one
That's
I love, though.
That's the only actual one right now. Hypothermia, the title track of I got that from someone actually pointed out in a review recently. I think it was a Spinner from Thrash Unlimited. That it was inspired by the Ice Cavern in Ocarina of Time, and yeah, it was inspired by that and the Northern Hemisphere's music of Donkey Kong Country. And I want to do another Zelda one on our next release, either instrumental or with lyrics. So I'll just kind of play through Ocarina of Time a couple more times and find that one thing that I want to write about. And
No Majora?
Majora, I actually want to write an entire suite on Majora's Mask, because there's so much that... usually I like picking things out of a game rather than just writing about the whole game, but Majora's Mask is one of those ones where you could just write about the whole game and tell a really good story.
There's so many elements to that game. You can't really... It's hard to even pinpoint any one thing in the game really making it what it is. I mean,
exactly.
It's incredible.
Exactly.
It's one of my favorite games of all time. I hate to say it, but I've never actually beaten the game. But it's just so good.
It is. It's incredible, man.
I really
that trilogy of like Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, and Twilight Princess, man. When I think Zelda, that's where my mind goes to those.
Yeah.
Especially
so
Ocarina and Majora.
Those would be considered the big three of the Zelda games as far as you're concerned.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, fuck Destruction, creator in Sodom, but you know. I never got into Destruction, man.
Really?
Especially Destruction. I never got into them. I remember hearing Sentence of Death and thinking it sounded so weak compared to Sepultura's Bastille Devastation.
Oh.
Because, man, Sepultura's Bastille is just like, what the fuck, dude?
I remember I got that from, my next door neighbor found it in his house, and he never listened to any metal. He was the one that got me into rap, and this is a Chinese kid we're talking about. And, I would go to his house, and we would listen to DMX and Ludacris and Biggie and Tupac, and then one day, I think I was like 13, I'm looking through his CDs because I'm looking for something to listen to, and I'm like, dude, what? You like Sepultura? He's like, He's like, who the fuck is Sepultura? I'm like, you have a Sepultura CD, and it's the first Sepultura album. He's like, I don't know what this is. It was the Morbid Visions Bestial Devastation CD that had both of them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, can I have this? And he's like, yeah. And then my dad found it, and me being, I was like 13 at the time, and my dad, wasn't really, he really didn't want me to listen to, like, metal or anything because of, just ignorance in the media. So,
yeah, sure.
So as soon as he saw the cover of that, he was like, all right, you gotta throw this out, because I don't want you to listen to this until you're older, where you can make your own decisions, because you're 13 years old, and I don't want to be responsible for you doing anything stupid. So I had Bestial Devastation for about 6 months, but I like that one a lot.
Oh yeah, me too, man. And I remember when we were on that tour with Terrace, like we were listening to Sodom, and Freddie was just like, how can you not like Sodom, but you love The Steel by on that Sepultura one that is just so incredible.
Yeah. Getting
There's
back...
that one song where Igor doesn't even do double bass, he just uses the floor toms. It's just like, whatever, man, you're getting the job done. What do you think of the new Sepultura with, like, Eric Green and all that?
They're trying.
We'll just leave it at that.
They're trying.
We'll leave it at that.
Getting back to Zelda, how old were you when you started playing Zelda, and what do you think drew you to it?
It was 98 when Ocarina of Time came out. That was my first experience with Zelda, and at the time, I had played Super Mario 64, which is it's a pretty big game when you really think about it. 15 different worlds, a lot of things to do in those worlds. But the overall map was pretty small because you were just confined to the castle. Still incredible. But man, when you step out of Kokiri Forest and you're in Hyrule Field, like to this day, man, there's just a certain magic about that game that I don't know if I can really say, it takes me back to my youth, but I just still get immersed in how big that game is. And yes, you have to do, the Great Deku Tree and then Dodongo's Cavern and Jabba Jabba's Belly, but in between that, you can go to Geretto Valley or you can go fishing in Lake Hylia, and it's so open still, and I like the monsters and the sword fight aspect of it. It's just, I guess it was a game that I'd been looking for a long time for my, stupid little ass at the time.
And that was one of the first games to do the open world like that. I mean, that might have been the first game to really get you to sink your teeth into open world.
Yeah, man, and have you seen the previews for the new one?
Oh, I can't wait.
Oh, man, it looks so good. It looks so good. I really hope it's set in, like, Ocarina of Time era, Hyrule, where you can go to Death Mountain and Lake Hylia and all of that.
I'm very tempted to buy a Wii U specifically for that.
Dude, get a Wii U anyway. It's awesome.
You have Smash?
I just got it.
Is it good?
Haven't played it yet. I got it yesterday for Christmas.
Okay, well, you have to let me know.
I'll let you know. I'll let you know ASAP.
You think they should do a Majora's Mask sequel, or where they explain more, or do you think it would just be better off to just leave everything to the imagination and not have it defined by anybody?
I think we've explored as much of Termina as we need to explore, but I am glad they are doing Majora's Mask 3D. I think that'll be a nice way to introduce it to people that never played it, and in the same way Ocarina of Time 3D was just a nice way to have it reintroduced to myself. Because I played the 64 versions for freaking 13 years. So it was nice. I mean, I still prefer the 64 version, but it was nice to see it, what it would look like with updated graphics. I think Majora's Mask 3D will be good, but yeah, I would just leave that Land of Termina however it was, because Skull Kid is all set, the four giants and him are on good terms. Let's just go back to Hyrule and explore more of that land.
I would like to know more about just the mask. I don't really, maybe some kind of an origin.
I was about to say, you would think an Origins game would be cool?
I think it'd be cool. I mean, at the same time, I'd like to leave a lot to the imagination, so I think if they could find a way to not contain it so much, then I think that it would be great. But I would like to really know. I mean, there's a lot of speculation on all of Majora's origins, whether or not Majora or Fierce Deity Link are actually the hero and the villain, or which one is which, or why they're fighting. I mean, there's some theories that they were siblings. There's others that they were lovers that split up over like different tribes or things like that. I mean, there's so many things that you could go into that I don't really think I don't think there'd be a wrong way to do this.
That is very interesting what you bring up, how many theories there are of Majora's Mask origin, and I think that would be interesting to explore, actually. And I think that would be good if they set it in Hyrule.
Yeah.
Or if they created it in another land. I just think Termina it's just perfect how it is with the Great Bay and Snow Peak and all of that. Like,
yeah,
and just the moon itself. Like, what more can we see of that land? But I think if it were in Hyrule, or if Majora, was from another dimension, we don't know. That's actually a great point. We don't know.
Maybe the Shadow Realm?
Really fun to explore.
Right? Maybe Majora is part of the Shadow World.
Yeah, exactly.
There's the similarity in that Mask in Twilight Princess. Like, it has the same eye, the same general structure. I mean,
on Midna's face, right?
Yeah, and like Zant has.
Yeah, Midna has the eye of Majora on there.
Yeah, and Zant has the fucking dance style fighting that Majora has in the boss battle. So I mean,
yeah, that's right.
So I think that could be very doable. So I think that would be a way to do it. They could bring Link back into the Shadow World and have him encounter Majora. It doesn't even necessarily have to be, Link. It could, we could even go into another character and we could have the origin of that. Then we'd have just another realm of the hero chapter, because the whole thing is that, you got to take the name of the franchise into it itself. It's the Legend of Zelda. It doesn't necessarily have to be Link. Kind of like, I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's kind of like how South Park is not generally about, the 4 kids. It's about the whole town.
Yeah. No, I get what you mean by that. The only problem I have, actually, now that I think about it, of an Origins, immediately, of what I would have a problem with of an immediate Origins is Zelda. I think the last game of the franchise is Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. We've always been going back because A Link to the Past is before the first one. The Great War in A Link to the Past intro, I think it's Ocarina of Time. And Skyward Sword is the origins of, like, Hyrule and Zelda and Hylia and all of that. So, like, now I'm thinking about it, while having an origins to Majora isn't necessarily going back in the whole timeline, which would help, I do think at some point we do need to go forward somewhere in the Zelda timeline, but I guess A Link Between Worlds did kind of do that.
In a sense, but they could always build on that. I mean, you do also see Majora's Mask hanging in the, what the hell is his name? You see it hanging on the wall in,
A Link Between Worlds?
Yeah, it's like an Easter egg.
Yeah, you see it hanging in the room.
Yeah. I mean, it's more of an Easter egg, but it's Zelda, so it could always have a lot of significance to it. So you don't know. I mean, they could expand on that also.
Exactly. They could take that Easter egg and turn it into something significant.
Yeah.
It's Nintendo. Never doubt their creativity.
No.
Fuck, man. Well, tell me about Zamboni. What's going on with Zamboni? When is Zamboni gonna tour?
We don't know. Rob and I have been trying to do it for a long time. We've been trying to get out there and just book stuff, but it never seems to work out. I guess also I guess it's kind of right that it never did, because we're not really that huge anyway. And I I wouldn't want to put out a tour out unless I had an album behind it. Like, I mean, demos and EPs are cool. I would rather have an album out and then start focusing on more stuff like that. But the thing is, we don't really play often anyway. I mean, we pretty much have what I like to call a Santa Claus schedule, where we only play once a year. Like
That's usually the Thrash Bash, right?
Yeah, and that's only because we're running it. I mean, every show that we played, with the exception of the Blue Room, once, which I'm never playing there again, booked every show ourselves, and we've done all the promotion, and we've actually made money on a couple of them, which is kind of cool. And we've been turning the Thrash Bash into a thing. So, I don't know, we don't really play out a lot. But if we were going to do a tour, it would probably be, like a 5-day mini tour, or like maybe even 10 days. I don't know, but it wouldn't be a huge tour or anything like that. But I would like to do
that. And it doesn't need to be anything massive.
Yeah.
You don't need to break your wallet, every time you go out on the road. Because, I mean, any amount of touring is expensive coming out of our own pockets. So sometimes those little 2 weeks max tours end up actually working out for the better, because you're not losing as much money as you would be, say, obviously, as you would be on like a 6-week tour.
Right. But I think if we were going to do it, I know we charted it out a couple of times. We would probably do something to go up and down the East Coast, maybe head slightly down east and then hang Midwest, or like if we were gonna go to, like, let's say to Texas and go way out there, then we'd obviously have to shorten the amount of dates that we'd have to be there, but we would just kind of spread it out a little more. I mean, I guess it really depends on how you map it.
Yeah, that's a big thing of it too. I remember when we were doing, Ben and I were mapping the Terrorists and Us tour. We had he mapped out one little loop in there that was kind of like, luckily we were able to, straighten it out so it's just one big circle the entire time. Because, man, we had like one loop in there that would have just cost us, probably a couple hundred in gas right there, that by the end of the tour we did not have. So, also, mapping is a big thing. It just has to be, that logical progression of point A to point B.
Right, and it's also the places that you can actually get, which that's going to throw off the mapping too. And,
exactly.
There's also the kinds of dates that you want to do, which day specifically you want to go to. If you're going to go to a certain place that, you've always wanted to see, then, maybe you want to think about putting a day off in between. Like, for example, a lot of people want to come to New York City. I don't really know why, because I've lived here forever, so, I'm fucking spoiled. Like, I can go see it every day, and I just take it for granted, which sounds kind of like a real dick thing to say, but that's just...
No, if you grew up in any city like that, like, when people say they want to visit Dallas, it's like, why?
Yeah.
Like, because I don't know of any of what's exciting here.
Right, but I don't know. I guess, like, if somebody was going to come from, let's say, Dallas to New York, or New York to Dallas, I would think that, we'd want to, that the person would want to put in, like, at least a day to just sightsee and do nothing, and then maybe plan the next date out in, like, a nearby state, or even, at that city, so that you could drive somewhere else within the next day. That's not too far, like a New York. Like New York, you have the day off the next day, and then you have a show in New Jersey the next night. That's doable, because it's right there. You don't really have to get up and, like, move the whole day. Or going from, Dallas to San Antonio. You don't have to go that far.
Yeah, it's only like 5 hours or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, touring, it is a tough one.
But it's something I definitely want to do before I die.
It's good. It's good especially when you go out with a band like how we've done with Lich King and Condition Critical and Vector and Terrace, like going with fellow musicians who are like-minded and fellow people with the same goals always just increases the morale, because touring can be, I mean, naturally you get homesick when you get to a town and you're like, holy crap, I don't know where I'm sleeping tonight. You know what I mean? Like,
it's a little uneasy the first couple of times, I guess.
Yeah, like, especially the Terrace one, because that was like our first full-length tour.
Right.
That one, like, was kind of like, that was an eye-opener, because, I mean, that house we stayed in Baltimore, thanks to people who gave us a place to stay, but I would have rather just kept driving and stayed in the van, man, because when chicks are crawling on the floor and my head has to be next to them, no thanks. I appreciate it. Sorry about the paint on the walls. If that's your biggest problem to whoever owns that house, you have a lot more problems, just to let you know. But, when you step out of a van and someone offers you heroin,
oof,
you're not in Dallas anymore. Meth is the Dallas drug. We go more meth here.
No, we don't really have too much meth here. We have kind of a little bit of everything.
I imagine New York and New Jersey kind of like a mixture of just a little bit of everything.
It depends on where you go, though. Like some areas are more particular of one drug than another. I mean, I know around by me, all you really deal with is just people smoking pot and just drinking, which is really not the worst thing in the world. If you move a little further,
murderers out there. And
yeah, if you move a little further,
I don't drink, I don't smoke, I've never done anything. That's like the least of my concern when someone's doing that.
Yeah, it's not the worst thing. I mean, if you move to other areas, you're gonna deal with, you're gonna see people doing heroin, or you're gonna see people, doing coke or worse. But it's just, I guess that's also kind of the interesting factor about living here too. You see so much of everything, and yet you see so little of everything at the same time.
Yeah, I know what you mean, man. Yeah.
But I definitely want to do touring. I mean, we've been working on the album since the summer, so I think it's gonna come out in 2015. I hope it comes out in 2015. We still have a little bit to do because we had a couple of issues. We had a couple of issues with recording the last two songs. I mean, we had 10 songs, and then they got cut to 9, and then we cut it down to 8, and we switched one of the songs, and we wrote another one, and we just got rid of another one that we didn't like anymore. So right now, I think Rob or our drummer Roger is either one of them is gonna program drums for the last two songs, because just like stuff happened with our drummer over the week that we spent recording into the Thrash Bash, where we had to play Thrash Bash with Urethra Butter's drummer Mitch, who they're now called Vantafrost, and they play black metal now instead of hardcore.
Okay.
So don't ask me how that happened, but
yeah, that's quite a big change.
Yeah. So we got most of it done. A couple, I think, like 2 or 3 songs have been mixed because like Rob took engineering in college, so Rob pretty much knows what he's doing. And we didn't really have to pay for anything, which was great. I mean, all we had to really pay for was food. We recorded in his room, actually, and he just mic'd the shit out of everything. The drum kit that we have it's not really that good at all. It's actually pretty fucking terrible. It was a hand-me-down kit from somebody that I used to be in a band with because he was moving out of his house and he couldn't keep stuff, so he just gave it to us, and I think the only thing we bought on there were like we bought new cymbals for it because they were cracked, and probably some new heads. But the kit is just like, this kit probably shouldn't be alive right now.
Alright, so I guess that answers my question. I didn't know if you guys had a drummer. Like, for the longest time, I thought it was just you and Rob, and,
It kind of was. It's like Rob and I. It's been kind of weird with the drum situation. Like, I don't really know. I don't really know what it is. I mean, I guess it could be the distance between the three of us, because Rob lives up in the he lives up in the sticks of Sussex County in New Jersey. I live in me living in Brooklyn. My drummer lives in, I think, White Plains. So that's like further than, that's like just out of the Bronx. So it's like really hard for us to get together and do anything.
Oh yeah, no, I understand, man. Like, yeah, well, luckily we're all in the Metroplex, but our just schedules, yeah, sometimes, like, like on a day like today, typically this is our practice day, Tuesdays and Fridays. And, well, right now it'd be more of like our writing session days where we all get in the room together and write. But, with Ben and Robert being in the Antichrist, having to do a show in Austin.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least I got to do this with you, man.
Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate that.
No, thanks for having me. It's been a lot of fun, actually. Just talking about music and Zelda and catching up. Well, let me ask you real fast. The drummer you're doing with now, is he the same one from the show we played together in 2011?
No, we met Roger in I met him in like 2013, I think. I think at the end of 2013 or at the end of 2012, something like that. I met him at an obituary show that I was working, because I was doing an interview with John Tardy that day.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he was actually really cool. So I was doing an interview with John Tardy. We were actually watching like all the roadies set up the gear and shit. The Gramercy Theater. It's a venue in New York where it used to be a movie theater or a show theater or something like that. They gutted half the seats and they made it a venue. So they still have the bleacher seats, so we're sitting down in the bleacher seats and we're doing the interview, and I'm asking whatever questions I'm asking him. I think we were talking about how the Incomplete was like 20 years old at the time, and all the roadies are just moving stage gear up the ramps and everything, and they're sound checking and everything for them. They're setting everything up. And we're watching it from, like the upper levels, and it's almost a balcony. If they had a balcony, that's probably where we would be, just kind of Waldorf and Statler and the whole fucking thing. But it was just such a cool experience, because I'm watching everybody else set up his show, and you never get to really see that as a fan. Like with us, you just walk in to the show and it's already there. It's already ready to go. All they have to do is just walk on stage. And, it kind of makes you realize this is a big production too. Other people have to, this doesn't just magically happen either. And it's kind of cool because he was a very down-to-earth guy.
Yeah, man, those, I've always noticed that about those, Florida death metal bands. Also, family-oriented. Like you've known them all your entire life. Like, when you talk to the Cannibal Corpse guys, they'll talk to you like you're a nephew or something that they really like. You're their favorite nephew. They make you feel so damn welcome.
Oh, they're so funny. For Summer Slaughter 2011, I was working that show, too. I was talking to Pat O'Brien. A couple of months before that, I had done an interview with Alex Webster where he was telling me about the Illustrated History of Torture, and that's the book that he got Torture from, a lot of the lyrical content. And I was telling him that I found it at a Barnes & Noble a couple of blocks from the venue for $5 on clearance, so I bought it because he mentioned it to me and because I could freak my dad out with it. And he laughed he was laughing about it, and he was we were going over which tortures were the most fucked up.
That's awesome, dude. Those little things with musicians that you look up to, or that you're, even if they're not an influence music that you like, those just sit well with you, man. Those are memories you have for a long time.
Oh yeah, like after that, Corpse Grinder. I remember Corpse Grinder was walking around the dressing room. Well, they had the nicer. No, I'm sorry, that wasn't at Gramercy. That was at Irving Plaza. They were in there. He was walking around the dressing room, and he was like, he had his neck weights around his neck and everything like that. And they were, I think.
Oh my God, are you serious?
Yeah, he had like a big ass chain, and on each end he had these like 20-pound neck weights. And
that is too funny. I didn't know he actually worked that monster out.
Yeah, man. He's walking around with them, and he's like complaining about how the fucking cold cuts were ham for like the past 5 days in a row or something like that.
Well, you know what? If I had cold cuts just delivered to me every day, I don't think I could complain if it was ham for 5 days.
I guess.
What the hell don't like ham anyway?
I guess he eats a lot of ham during the off season or during the regular days. I mean, I don't know. Maybe catering just gives them ham like 3/4 of the time, and he's probably so sick of ham.
Yeah, man. No, Corpse Grinder seems like I haven't talked to him personally, but he seems like a really nice guy too.
Yeah, he was pretty cool. I didn't really talk to him too much because he was kind of agitated about the ham. So I kind of was like, let me give this guy his space before he fucking yells at me because he can't get turkey.
He can't get turkey or something.
But I just thought that was really funny. There was another time where, this was also at the Gramercy Theater, where I was interviewing Vector and Exhumed was like also there, and we were just drinking, and then all out of nowhere, the bass player Rob from Exhumed and everybody in Vector, we all start talking about how Norm Macdonald is the most underrated comedian.
Dude, Norm Macdonald rules, and anyone who says otherwise should be, I don't know, have their toes stepped on or something. That dude's hilarious.
Oh, I know. You never forget the little things though. Like little details like that just kind of make your night.
They really do, man. It's those, because we look at them, so many musicians, like they're gods because they influence us, or they help us through times and they don't even know it. And it's those moments where we all feel like we're on the same level of human. We're just a couple of guys hanging out, having a fun conversation that you really do take home. And that's what has always been my gripe about, like, and I can't thank my girlfriend enough for doing this, but she's always, whenever Testament comes through, she'll let me do the VIP things, and meet them. And because, Testament's my favorite band, and Alex Skolnick is the reason I do what I do, but those things are so underwhelming, because it's just like, it's so processed. Here, shake his hand, Chuck Billy doesn't even want to look at you, move along, take a group photo they don't give a shit about, and there you go. But like, when Death Angel was here in like 2008, I talked with Rob and Mark for like a good hour, and just had a personable conversation with them, and those are the better times than, getting a live at the Fillmore cassette from Testament that they don't even give a shit about anymore. From guys that weren't even on the album. Sorry, just had to rant a little bit.
No, that's fine. There was a show in Scranton, Pennsylvania for the Rust in Peace tour when Megadeth decided to do in Testament did the Legacy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we were at the mall, and everybody we were at the mall, and and we were at the food court, right? And Chuck Billy is, at the Nathan's, and he's waiting online to get food, and we're waiting in line at the Nathan's too. My guitarist Rob and our friend Roberto, they left their thrash vests in the car, and my friend Ian and I, we had all of our gear on and shit. And then he noticed us, and he started walking away. Because he was like, oh, no, I'm going to get bombarded by questions or whatever. But had he not done that, we would have never known, because then we noticed him walking away, because let's be honest, how are you going to fucking miss Chuck Billy? He's a 6'6" Native American guy, and we were in Scranton, Pennsylvania, which is all white people, so there's no fucking way that you're going to, like, miss this guy. And we see him, and we follow him, because we're dicks. So we follow him, and we meet him at the other end of the food court thing, and he's over at the smoothie section, and he's like, yeah, let me just get a strawberry banana smoothie. Yeah, medium. No, large. No, I'll get no, you know what? Just give me a large. And, and we're like, hey, Chuck, you like strawberry banana milkshakes, don't you? And, after that, he was like, okay, fine. And then we were, like, talking for a little bit. And he was all right. I mean, we didn't really, he was nice enough to say hi, give us a picture, and it wasn't that bad. I mean, he probably thought that we were going to be, like, crazy Wayne's World fan guys and tell him that our moms gave us $1 to take the bus home or some shit. But he seemed to be a lot better. I mean, we felt a little bad after it, which... This is kind of funny because everybody else from Testament was walking around the mall too, and they all were like, friendly and saying hi to us and stuff, and we felt so, like, shitty for, like, bothering Chuck Billy and his fucking strawberry banana smoothie that we, like, barely said anything to them, and they kind of were like, oh, what the hell?
Oh, man. It was... I'm glad you had a better experience than I did. Maybe I've always caught him on an off day, but I've caught him on, like, 3 off days. It's kind of annoying after a while. Like, Gary Holt has always been awesome to me. Gary, man, what a guy.
Yeah, he's always been really cool. I
and
remember there
even
was
guys like Tom Martin. Like, I can't believe, I listened to our old demos not long ago, and it was like, I can't believe Tom even gave me the time of day. And, now we're really good friends. So.
Yeah.
That's still a guy that, I look up to. Even though he makes fun of me all the time for anything that I say or do or wear or don't wear, or if I breathe, he's there to insult me, and I just take it. Well, I don't know why.
In a nutshell, that's Tom.
Yeah.
But you can't you can't see him any other way, and you wouldn't want him any other way.
No, that's my Tom.
Yep. And on that note, I think we better wrap this thing up, because I got stuff to do.
Yeah, that's fine, man. Dude, this has been a lot of fun. If you ever want to do it again, let me know, because I am down. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome, man. Thank you. Thank you. I'd love to have you on this thing again.
Anytime that's good for you, I'm available, man. Really, thank you so much. It was nice just being able to talk to you again. I feel like we haven't talked in quite some time.
Yeah.
But, yeah, man, well, you take care, have a good night, man, and I will hear from you soon, man.
Yeah, you too, dude.
Alright, take care.
Yes, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, man.
Alright, bye.
Bye.
So that was the last part of the Atomic Thrasher podcast. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. We'll probably have him back on a guest at some other point in time, or other members of Insinnerator. I would like to get their bass player Ben and their guitarist Rob, who we didn't talk too much about, but they're in a band called Die Antichrist, old school black metal band. I had the opportunity to see them in November, which I did while they were touring, which was great. Really old school stuff. They were the whole corpse paint and everything, strobes, smoke machines. If the venue was larger, I'm sure there would have been fireballs too. And there is a lot of fake blood just being spewed. So it's a real old school show, really cool shit. But I hope you guys had a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed the podcast, as you hopefully always do. And I want to thank you guys for listening to it and just keeping this thing alive. But we're going to head out now. But before I go, some closing words. You know what's coming if you listened to it before. Know your self-worth, because you could turn yourself into a weapon. And just get whatever it is that you can if you know your worth. So keep on keeping on. This is a song by Insinnerator that we're going to leave it with, as usual. This is the song that we spoke about before when we were talking Zelda. This is called Evil Spirit from Beyond. It's from their first album, Stalagmite of Ice. And this is about Ganondorf and what a bad son of a bitch he is. Take care.
He will bring venom with a spear clutched in his hand to wreak havoc across all the land. Will reveal to defeat. You will fall to the evil spirit from beyond. Spear rise, guard the stage and your return alive. Do not fail, or you be cast into oblivion. All your life it will betray. We'll break the blade of evil's big venom with spear clutched in his hand to wreak havoc across all the land. We'll reveal you defeat. You will fall